The Mississippi River is a major artery that traverses the continental United States. From the northwestern tip of Minnesota to the southern tip of Louisiana and on into the Gulf of Mexico, it's an essential route for transporting essential commodities like grain, coal, and iron ore, and it also powers farms and cities with its dams. Although the mighty Mississippi is an incredible resource, it does have some worrying characteristics. Hello and welcome back to our channel, The Juicy Truth. If you've got a thirst for knowledge that never quits, then subscribe to our channel today. Oh, and don't forget to hit that bell icon as well. To illustrate, consider the devastation caused by the floods and the size of the dead zone. The Mississippi has a murky underbelly that we must explore. Let's go. What were the three worst Mississippi River floods in history? Number 1, the Great Flood of 1927. In the spring of 1927, the Mississippi River suffered its worst flood in history. It rained so heavily for so long that the Mississippi River finally overflowed its banks. The Mound Landing levee failed on April 21, followed by the Illinois levee on April 16. Within days, the Mississippi River had risen above its banks from Illinois to Louisiana. It included more than 16 million acres, and at its widest point at Vicksburg, Mississippi, the river measured 80 miles across. It's estimated that 246 individuals lost their lives. There were 640,000 people forced to find new homes, and thousands of acres of crops were destroyed. It's undeniably a sinister side to the Mississippi. Number 2, Great Mississippi and Missouri River floods of 1993. Between 1927 and 1993, the Mississippi River saw a number of floods, with the one that occurred between April and October of that year ranking among the worst. The Missouri River flooded, adding another 30,000 square miles. Many places along the Mississippi River were submerged for nearly 2 months. Industrial buildings, residential areas, and agricultural land were all swamped. Grafton, Illinois, Clarksville, Missouri, Winfield, Hannibal, Quincy, and Illinois had the most prolonged floods. There were 32 deaths, and the flood devastated 100,000 dwellings and 15 million acres of crops. Number 3, Great Mississippi Flood of 2011. The Mississippi River once again began to rise in April 2011 after 2 massive storms dropped so much rain on the region around the river. The western counties of Mississippi, Kentucky, and Tennessee were the hardest damaged by the floods that began in May along much of the Mississippi. Damaged to the point where the president proclaimed them federal disaster regions. These areas have been hit hard. Engineers understood from past floods the need of being prepared, so they constructed the Morganza Spillway. When the spillway is opened, water is redirected away from Baton Rouge, and instead floods an area covering 4,600 square miles. In Louisiana and Mississippi alone, the floods claimed 348 lives and destroyed 24,500 dwellings. The Dead Zone. There is an area in the Gulf of Mexico known as the Dead Zone due to the excessive amounts of seaweed and algae that have settled there. This type of aquatic environment is known as a hypoxic zone. Agricultural and urban fertilizers leach into the Mississippi as it flows through these areas. Large quantities of phosphorus and nitrogen can be found in fertilizers. The dead zone is also caused by sewage pollution. If you consider it a fertilizer, sewage has some of the same ingredients that promote excessive seaweed and algae development. Between 5,400 and 8,776 square miles are included in the dead zone near the mouth of the Mississippi. It shrinks in the winter and expands in the summer due to increased fertilizer application. Which species is the dead zone most dangerous to? The circumstances of the dead zone can be fatal for a variety of organisms, including shrimp and oysters. Because of the abnormally low levels of oxygen in the water, some creatures are forced to evacuate, while others are unable to obtain sufficient amounts of food. Given that the Gulf of Mexico is the source of 70% of the shrimp consumed in the United States, this has a significant impact on the shrimp business. You can picture what could happen to the price of seafood if the dead zone is not corrected, as 60% of the oysters sold in the United States come from the Gulf of Mexico. Pollution. The Mississippi River is the world's 4th most contaminated river, according to a recent study. There are 18 million people in the United States who get their water supply from the Mississippi. There is a less savory side to the Mississippi River, and we can all do our part to improve it. Keep vegetation at the river's margin to act as a buffer zone. Reduce the amount of fertilizer you use on your lawn or convert some of it to hardscapes. Find out if a nutrient reduction strategy has been implemented in your state. Don't let your trash and recyclables wind up in the water by not putting them in the proper containers. Humans can improve the Mississippi River's health in a number of ways. More people need to be on board with preventing river pollution. Thus, it's important that education programs for citizens and businesses about damaging the waters continue. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and share it with your friends as well. We'll see you next time.